Hey everybody, Dr. John Michael Salvato, your organic living and peak performance coach. And this is day 32 of the 200-day Mindshift Mastery Program. And today's focus is a focus on servant leadership and complaining. And, I posted a blog article about that last night and just some initial thoughts about complaints. And really it comes down to something that Jim Rohn said some 32 or 33 years ago when he said, when it comes to your business, you're either part of the solution or part of the problem. And I see complaints. Now don't get me wrong. When I say complaining, I mean complaining as in whining, bitching, not saying, hey, this is something that needs to be fixed. There are times when legitimate complaints need to be filed, need to be stated, need to be brought to the awareness of whatever community you're a part of. There's a proper place in your life for legitimate complaints, for voicing your objection to social injustice, for voicing your objection to racism or sexism or homophobia or Islamophobia or whatever it happens to be. But when we talk about complaints in this context, we're talking about whining and bitching and moaning. And there's really no place in the servant leaders world or daily method of operation for complaining. If your business isn't going well, don't complain about the economy. Don't complain about not having enough customers. Don't complain that your sales organization isn't doing enough. Just look at what you could do to fix it. And so the mind shift is to really take a look at what we're doing on a daily basis. And one of the things that we've done for the past 32 days has been gradually to build mindfulness, to build an awareness of the things that we say, the things that we do, the things that we think. And so today is no different. Today we bring our awareness to our interactions with other people and the way that we're speaking to ourselves, our self-talk, to see if we are legitimately looking for solutions to problems or just moaning and bitching and complaining about it. So today could very easily be a shorter session like we saw yesterday, because this is really one of those times when our whole focus becomes introspective, when we don't have to come to the world and say, oh yeah, I complained, I need to make a bold proclamation that I'm a complainer, because we've all done it. And we'll all continue to do it. It's human nature. Complaining is an ego, has its origins in the ego and comes from seeking validation. We only complain because we want somebody to agree with us. Nobody complains hopefully nobody complains for the purpose of having people disagree with them. They complain because they want just one person to say your feelings are legitimate. Your dissatisfaction is legitimate. I validate your opinion. And we don't need validation in this life. The things that you hold as opinions, the perceptions that you hold, the opinions that matter to you are valid. You have every right to express those and to express those fully. You don't have a right to impose those things. And that's where leadership comes in. Servant leadership just looks for ways to build bridges of understanding and to serve and alleviate suffering wherever they find it. So in your business, if people aren't enrolling people, they're not selling product, they're not marketing themselves, then you really need to, this comes back to that concept of 100% responsibility. Everything you're experiencing in your life, you need to take 100% responsibility for it. If your business partners aren't performing at the level that you want, take 100% responsibility. Find out what you can do to help change that. And a lot of times it just begins by recognizing that our thoughts of scarcity, our thoughts of lack, our thoughts of not being good enough are manifesting in our experiences. If your upline isn't supporting you the way that you want them to support you, take 100% responsibility. Have you communicated with your upline to let them know what you expect? If you're not in the direct sales or network marketing business and you're in any other type of relationship, then before you complain, remember that 100% responsibility for all of your experiences in life rests with you, and ask what you can do, what's within your power to change that circumstance. There have been folks that I've worked with and counseled, in times in my own life when I would find myself ready to complain or actively complaining about relationships. This person didn't do this. This person's angry and hostile. This person's a whiner. This person is irresponsible or mediocre. And every time that happens, I have to take 100% responsibility and say, what can I do? First of all, what have I done to create this circumstance? And what can I do? What have I failed to do that could alleviate this circumstance? If you're in a relationship with somebody and that person is constantly complaining, maybe they're complaining because, and this is a big one, because this applies to every relationship, intimate relationships, business relationships, community relationships. If a person is complaining, then we recognize from what I just said a few minutes ago that they're seeking validation. So it's an opportunity for you to validate that person, because it's their ego, it's their insecurity, it's making them complain. And see, once that really clicked in my head, complainers used to drive me crazy. I used to get irritated and pissed off. And what was I doing when that happened? I was complaining about complainers. So that's the ultimate hypocrisy. So once I realized that it was just a cry for validation, then when somebody complained, I was able to be present. I was able to say, what can I do? I hear you, and that means you have to actually listen. I hear you, I understand your frustration, and I believe that your feelings could be very legitimate. So let's talk about what we can do to fix that situation. Now, somebody might be complaining about the price of gas, and if they're complaining about the price of gas, you might think, I have nothing within my power to change the price of gas. They're whining and complaining. But you do have something within your power. You have the ability to put that in perspective for someone. When somebody's complaining to me that the cost of food is too expensive, then I engage them in a conversation about, this is something that I felt myself, and I understand where you're coming from. But let me tell you what I found. I found that the price of food goes up because so often we don't support local farmers. We don't support local growers. We don't support local stores, local small businesses. And so those places where we're doing business, the prices go up because we're not doing our part. So what could we do to help find you lower prices on your food? Well, you might go to the farmer's market. You might, participate in a co-op. So there's always a solution if you're willing to be present, be in that moment, and that's where the servant leadership comes in. See, servant leadership doesn't focus all of its energy and all of its attention on what's in this for me. It doesn't focus any attention on what's in it for me, and because of that, servant leadership quite often brings greater returns to you for being a servant leader than you could have ever imagined. See, when we're focused on what's in it for me, our scope is narrow. We're going to focus on the one thing or the two things that we think we're going to get out of that. When you remove that focus, then that scope becomes wide. And then you're actually able to receive what's waiting for you, not what's in it for you, but it's that universal law of compensation, the law of equivalent exchange. So focus on what you're bringing to the marketplace, focus on what you're giving up, and that law of equivalent exchange will abundantly manifest in your life. So let's hear from you guys. Let's hear what your thoughts are about complaining, what your thoughts are about taking responsibility for your life and your experiences, and recognizing that everything that manifests in your life is a result of your thoughts.
Well, I know with me, and I go through this, well, every time I do the dishes or the laundry, I sit and I look at this pile And then I look in the living room, and there's two teenage kids and a full-grown husband sitting there playing video games or watching a movie. And it's like, am I really the only human being? Yeah, and I admit it. I'll sit there and go, I'm going to write about this one day. I promise I'm going to write about this one day. But then I think it's like, what good is that going to do? Is it? I mean, I know everyone else feels this way, especially the stay-at-home mom syndrome. It's like I'm the only one who sees the empty toilet paper roll. You got to be kidding me. But in the end, it's just easier to sit there and go, hey, can you guys help? And it kind of solves itself, and then I'm no longer upset. I don't have that need to complain, even though I did it in my head. And it really is kind of a law of attraction thing. What you focus on, what you focus about, you bring about, kind of thing. And I've really tried to keep myself from going in that direction of, what's bad about this situation as opposed to what's good. And like I said, I'll just stick my head around the corner and go, hey, guys, I need a little bit of help. Can you throw in a hand here? So that's pretty much my experience.
Right on. What is this this full-grown husband of which you speak? I've never experienced one of those.
Oh, yeah, the one who plays video games 3 hours a night when he gets home from work.
Yeah, I've heard about the mythical full-grown husband, but they all seem to be kids to me.
Yeah, I love him, and he does some of the big grown-up chores, like mowing the lawn and squashing the bugs for me. But for the most part, it's like, I just sit there, it's like, you play more video games now than I did when I was 12, man. Seriously.
I can relate. I feel your pain. Need to jump in the conversation.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can.
Yeah, yeah. I like how you brought out about what you focus on, because it's really a mind shift to try and stop the complaining, because it can become a daily habit when you're stuck at home, as was mentioned, when you're stuck at home and you're cleaning up after everybody else in the house and that sort of thing. It can actually become a habit to just keep complaining to see will they move and actually do something. But I like how you brought out about the mind shift change, because until we focus on not doing it, it's just going to keep happening. It's a habit. So it's something that it has to be a mind shift to change and to focus on helping. I'm not saying about helping them do the housework, but on helping to find a solution to what we ourselves can be complaining about. And also when somebody's actually complaining to you all the time, if you're sitting there with them, you might, you're a complainer too. You might as well. You need to change that conversation around. And when, as tying in yesterday, like you said, when you're in the moment and with that person, and when you're trying to bring something to that person to help them with to leave something with them, it's always good to give them a solution. And sometimes when you actually say to somebody, what can I do to help you, it triggers their brain to think, oh, what can I actually do to help myself? Because they're so caught up in the complaining, they don't realize that they can find a way out. They can find an answer to the complaining. It's just that their mindset hasn't changed. So when you say, what can I do to help you, it triggers them to be thinking, well, what can I actually do to help myself? Which is what you want in the end as well.
Exactly. It's about empowering other people to make better decisions and empowering them to recognize that the point of power is always within them. We can ask what we can do to help somebody, but the point of power is still with that person. And it's important, I think, that in our role as servant leaders, that we recognize that we are, even when we offer to help, even when we do what we can to alleviate suffering or to help empower a person, the point of power always rests with that person. The decision on whether or not to be a victor or a victim is always going to rest with that person. And their decision, and this is the tough one for me, their decision is always valid. So when I offer to help somebody and they don't take that help, that's a valid decision. That's their choice. That's their journey and their path. You know, there's a quote that I read not long ago that said there is a dramatic difference between knowing the path and walking the path. And we are human beings, or we're spiritual beings having a human experience, or spiritual experience on the human plane, as Robert Brzezinski put it so eloquently. And we can't have that experience unless we're walking our path. My path isn't your path, and your path isn't my path. And even when we think we're on the same path, we're actually on two paths that happen to have converged for a period of time. And so it's really about respecting others too. And this is why we say that other people's opinions are every bit as valid as our own, that their perspective is as valid as our own, because we can't be certain that what we perceive as happening around us is 100% accurate either, because we're all interpreting everything that happens in our lives through the lens of our past experiences. And part of the growing up process, emotionally, spiritually, metaphysically, is learning to let go of those past experiences so that we clear the shit, the dead bugs and the bird shit and the smudges off the windshield of the lens that we're actually interpreting things through. You know, if you drove along a road long enough and didn't have windshield wipers, then that window is going to get, you know, cluttered and become obscured by bugs and road debris and bird crap and everything else. But when you allow yourself to take the time to just stop at a service station and clean that window, you see things more clearly. You're able to interpret things through a clearer lens. There was a saying in the ancient script that says, then I saw darkly, but now I see clearly. You know, I saw through a lens dimly. And that's what this is about. It's about letting go of our past fears, our past experiences, recognizing that the stuff that's on the hard drive of our subconscious minds is not always good data. It's quite often chaotic data. And so that applies to our own complaints as well. Are you okay? Okay. That applies to our own complaints as well. That when we're complaining, we're complaining based on our interpretation of events, our past fears, our beliefs, and our suspicions about what's happening right now, our interpretation or perception about what's happening right now. You know, it's like I said, when somebody's complaining about the price of groceries, you know, they quite often don't take into consideration that everybody has experienced an increase in the cost of living just like they have. That the farmer who grew that food is dealing with increased expenses too. So why should milk or bread or corn or beef or chicken be the same price it was 10 years ago when you're not getting paid the same wage you were getting paid 10 years ago, and neither should that farmer? So, you know, this, like I said, today I figured would be a little bit shorter session. It hasn't been really tremendously shorter, so I'm happy for that. You know, I hope that you know, that these sessions are valuable for you guys. I hope that they've been helpful and continue to be helpful, and will become even more helpful as we move further along. I know it seems like we've been you know, together a much longer period of time than 32 business days. You know, because you know, you factor in the weekends, and we're probably at day 60 or day 70 or something like that in our actual relationship to this journey. But I continue to hope that this be inspiring for you guys, useful for you guys, value-based for all of you. And I just have to say that you know, for the two of you that are here, and I know if Amanda were able to, she would be here, and Sandy, who's on the road, sends her regards, excuse me, or she would be here. But you know, for the 4 or 5 of you who actually participate on a daily basis, you know, you guys make it all worthwhile. excuse me, you guys are the reason why I couldn't even begin to complain about participation in this group, because if only one of you showed up every single day, we would take this journey together. And if nobody showed up every day, we would still take this journey, because I'm as committed to this 200-day process as every one of you, because I've done a 200-day Mindshift Mastery every year for the last 15 years, and this is my journey. I've as many times as I've done it, there has never been, I can't think of a single time, on a single day when I haven't experienced some degree of personal growth, because we're in this journey together. And so I finally, in closing, want to acknowledge and thank you guys, excuse me, for the kind words these past couple of days, and for your kindness and saying that how much you appreciate that we're still doing these, that it would have been understandable if we canceled them. Please understand that doing this is as therapeutic for me as hopefully it is valuable for you. That the only way in the wake of such horrific tragedies for us to begin to heal, because I'm not going to say that we're going to make sense of this, because this was senseless. The only way we can begin to heal is by making sure that our lives reflect the value, the love, the gifts that our lost friends and community members and fellow human beings brought to our own lives. And so we honor their memories by making sure that our legacy, when we see our final sunset, is making sure that every day counts, making sure that we do what we can to bring a right attitude, a right mindfulness, a right livelihood to the marketplace. So I hope that this has been valuable and helpful for you guys. I appreciate the value and help therapeutically that it's been for me, and I will continue to do this. And if you know of anybody who was affected, including yourselves, and who are trying to make sense of this for at least the next couple days, probably through Thursday or Friday, maybe through the entire weekend, at 8 o'clock Eastern Time, I will be hosting. Now, I know Ita is going to cringe at this, because not only is it the middle of the night for her, but it's going to be on Blab. I'm sorry. I am going to, and that's tentative. Tonight is going to be on Blab, but I'm going to host a program there called Grief Relief that is going to be an opportunity for people to come together and just talk and be present to one another. And it's part of that servant leadership, part of that giving back to my community at a time when we need it the most, including myself. So you guys are more than welcome to be part of that. I posted it on my Facebook wall. You're also more than welcome and encouraged to share that with others, because there are many people struggling right now who may not have known anybody in Orlando, but they're struggling to make sense of this. They're struggling to find a place for this, and it has been so powerful and so moving to see the vigils last night around the world. London was packed beyond imagination. In fact, the crowd in London was second only in size to the crowd in New York City at Stonewall. Excuse me, at the site of the Stonewall riots 47 years ago at the end of this month. And I just continue to see cities around the world, in Sydney, in Japan, just with the outpouring of love and support. So before I have a Kodak moment myself, I thank you guys. I appreciate each and every one of you, and I will look forward to talking with you tomorrow. Namaste.